Welcome to The Source, where we combine the headlines with in-depth conversations with the newsmakers themselves. I'm Pinky Webb. Today on the program, the government denies any commitment to remove BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin Shoal and now accuses China of trespassing into Philippine territory. Philippine Association for Chinese Studies President Rommel Banlaoi joins us live. And later, the government records over 70,000 adverse reactions from millions of COVID-19 doses administered so far. And later, the Philippines aims to vaccinate children 11 years old and below against COVID by year-end. Food and Drug Administration Chief Eric Domingo joins us live. The Defense Department refutes China's claim that there is a commitment to remove BRP Sierra Madre, the grounded vessel in Ayungin Shoal. Defense Chief Delphine Lorenzana repeatedly insists Ayungin is within the country's exclusive economic zone and the vessel has been there since 1999. Lawmakers and presidential aspirants react to China's claims. Senator Joel Villanueva says that Sierra Madre is a fixture in Ayungin Shoal and trespassers have no right to issue an eviction order. Senator Grace Poe says China's demand is a display of arrogance and aggression. Presidential aspirant and Vice President Lenny Robredo, Senator Ping Lacson, and Manila Mayor Isko Moreno also responds to China's claims.
Tell it to the Marine. It's ours. At ang mga mangingisda natin dapat makapangisda sa West Philippine Sea.
You mean Ayungin, sir, is ours?
It's ours.
Ayungin Shoal.
It's ours. Historically, technically, and the world recognizes we own it under the Hague ruling.
So no withdrawal, sir, of the ship?
No withdrawal. I'm not in the position to say that today, but my position as a citizen, my belief as a citizen, it is ours.
Hindi naman tayo kailangan makipagdebate. Klaro na bahagi ito ng ating EEZ. At yung meron tayong sovereign rights over dito, dapat yung enjoyment ng resources doon ay exclusive para sa mga Pilipino.
Ang kailangan doon, ma-prevent natin yung war, pero kailangan merong balanse. Hindi yung isa lang yung nambubuli at yung maliit na bansa lagi nabubuli.
And let's go straight to the source of the story. We have Philippine Association for Chinese Studies President Rommel Banlaoi. Professor Banlaoi, welcome to the source. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, good morning, Pinky. Good morning to all.
So first, I wanted to find out from you, have you ever heard, was there any talk in the past that the Philippine government committed to actually remove BRP Sierra Madre from Ayungin Shoal?
As far as I know, there was no commitment. There was no commitment to remove our structure in Ayungin Shoal. And our intention of putting the ship in Ayungin Shoal was exactly to establish our foothold and assert our sovereign rights in the area. So there was no commitment to remove it. If there was such thing as removing it, I think it was not an official commitment.
Okay, if not an official commitment, what? Back in 1999, because there was a transcript coming from the Chinese Foreign Ministry. This was in 2014 po ha. Ang sinabi in 1999, the Philippines side made an equivocal commitment to China on many occasions that it would tow away the ship grounded over there in Ayungin. Any information on this? Where were you? Which position were you holding back in 1999?
Well, in 1999, I was working at the Department of National Defense when Secretary Orly Mercado became the Secretary of National Defense. And I remember that was being discussed about the need to establish our presence in Ayungin Shoal in order to prevent China from expanding because of its growing presence in the Mischief Reef. And I recall that when we started to ground the BRP Sierra Madre there, the Chinese government already urged us to remove our structure there, but we made a lot of alibi that we cannot remove the structure because of so many reasons, and I'm not in a position to discuss the details. But back then, our intention of really docking the ship there was to really assert our sovereign rights and establish our presence in the area to keep China from further expanding.
Opo. It's good that you mentioned that the Defense Secretary at that time was former Senator Orly Mercado. Ano po. So just going back again, just to be very clear on this, at any given time in 1999, meron ho bang pasabi? Was there any statement made that we would?
I'm sorry, Pinky, I'm not in a position to answer that question because that is the official matter. But I can analyze the repercussions of that situation.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about the situation now, because you already have Secretary Delfin Lorenzana saying this is not true. Secretary Albert Del Rosario, obviously the DFA secretary during the time of Pinoy, also seconded the statement made by Secretary Delfin Lorenzana. What is happening now? I know, let's put this into context, no, Professor. There have been a number of times that it was made difficult for us to do resupply over there in BRP Sierra Madre, but this seems to be a little bit more. It seems to be a little bit more. I don't know if the word is pronounced or parang mas matindi ngayon, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, because China is becoming more and more assertive also in pursuing its maritime claims in the area. And for China, the issue is not only maritime claims, but also territorial claims. And when it comes to territorial claims, China insists that those land features around the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea, belong to their national territory. And that is also our perspective that all land features within the Kalayaan Island Group also belongs to our national territory as defined by the 1987 Philippine Constitution. And we insist that as far as our claim is concerned, the second Thomas Shoal is clearly part of our exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. And in fact, if we will pursue our claim for extended continental shelf, our water will go farther than Ayungin Shoal because the international law provides the Philippines to claim for additional 150 nautical miles from our continental shelf. So our claim to waters will be beyond the second Thomas Shoal. So that's very clear. And the 216 Arbitral Tribunal reaffirmed our position, saying that all land features in that area, including Ayungin Shoal and Mischief Reef, are low tide elevations, and most of the time these are waters, and these waters clearly belong to the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines, and that has been our position, reaffirmed by three major documents. You know, the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, the Philippine Constitution, and also the arbitral win. At The Hague.
Okay, it's good you said that, Professor, because I think, was it Secretary Delfin Lorenzana was actually saying we're backed by two decisions here, which is number one, the UNCLOS, to which China ratified, tama po, the Hague ruling in 2016. And now, of course, you're saying the Philippine Constitution, tatlo po yan. Here's the thing. When we were allowed to resupply very recently, ano po, after being water cannoned, ang sabi po ng China, there was special arrangement done out of humanitarian consideration because of our troops, our Navy troops over there in Ayungin. And of course, nakita naman po natin kung ano nang itsura ng BRP Sierra Madre. Ano po. Ang tanong ko lang kasi, why must we even have a special arrangement with them? That's ours.
Well, that was the understanding of the two governments about the exercise of self-restraint and not hampering any activities of both parties operating in the area, because they want to uphold the spirit of the United Convention of the Law of the Sea to pursue the duty to cooperate in the South China Sea, and pending the resolution of conflict between the two parties through amicable settlement, they are encouraged to cooperate rather than compete. And what happened in Ayungin Shoal was clearly a unilateral action of China that undermines that bilateral understanding, that bilateral arrangement. And in fact, that was also the major topics of various meetings of the bilateral consultative mechanism in the South China Sea. After having 6 meetings, they reaffirmed the importance of exercising self-restraint and avoiding conducting unilateral actions that will undermine their bilateral efforts to pursue pragmatic cooperation, particularly in the area of marine scientific research, marine environmental protection. And because of the situation in the Ayungin Shoal on November 16, the need to really pursue coordinated actions for law enforcement operations in order to avoid miscalculations that can lead to unintended violent encounter at sea. And that's the spirit, that's the spirit of the two countries. And what China did, in my opinion, was in fact a violation of that commitment to exercise self-restraint and avoid unilateral actions that will undermine their bilateral efforts to promote cooperation. So I think that's what China should do to really avoid doing
Professor,
actions that
but
will offend our
that's my
sovereign rights.
question now. Why undermine it now? Why do it at this time?
Well, China is doing it because, China is implementing what we call salami slicing strategy, and that is doing small action that, if not prevented, will become big problem in the future. And what we demonstrated in the Ayungin Shoal is that even though that was a small action, we are not allowing it. So we condemn it. And in the words of our president, it's a very abhorring position, and we made it known to China that we were offended by its actions, and we felt violated. We felt violated. So that was a good decision of the Philippine government, that we will not allow that kind of action to repeat. So we will not condone China's actions on that.
The president said we abhor, if I remember most of what he said, we abhor the situation in Ayungin Shoal and other similar incidents as such. Those were the words used by President during that ASEAN summit. But here's my last question. In spite of that, Professor, that the president said that the Secretary Delfino Lorenzana already said, we can do whatever we want within our EEZ. We have sovereign rights over there. Yun nga po thereafter, sinabi pa ng China na dapat ipagpatuloy ng Pilipinas yung kanilang naging commitment na tanggalin si BRP Sierra Madre sa Ayungin Shoal. Para bang, ang tanong ko kasi, after all those statements made, by no less by the President himself, they went a step further and said, dapat nga tayo, tanggalin na natin si BRP Sierra Madre.
I don't know about that commitment to remove, but as far as I remember, our intention really in docking our ship there was to establish permanent presence there to protect our sovereign rights in the area. But it's true, I agree with Secretary Lorenzana that we are free to conduct any type of activities in our exclusive economic zone, because that is legally supported. But that's the ideal situation. The real situation on the ground is that there are limitations for our movements, because China is around and with the capability to hamper and even disrupt our planned activities, whether it is for economic purpose or resupply mission or rotation mission. But what is important is that we are conducting legitimate peaceful activities in the area. But because of the realities on the ground, what we need is to really talk with China as mandated by the United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, that all parties in conflict should find ways to cooperate in order to avoid conflicts in the area, and find ways to settle amicably their differences, and pending the settlement of their conflict through amicable agreement, they should explore ways to pursue cooperation. And cooperation, according to UNCLOS, is not only an ideal or an aspiration. Cooperation is a duty. In fact, the term of the UNCLOS is duty to cooperate. It's the duty of all parties in conflict to cooperate in order to maintain peace in the area and avoid conflict. And there's another principle in UNCLOS that is the due regard. If you conduct unilateral actions in the area, always pay attention to the sensitivities of other parties in due regard to their national positions. And we should be reminded of that principles of UNCLOS.
Okay, Professor Rommel Banlaoi, sir, thank you so much for your time and take care.
Thank you very much, Pinky. Mabuhay.
Thank you.
Keep safe.
And coming up, we'll talk about vaccinating kids by year end, and we're talking about those between 5 to 11 years old. FDA Chief Eric Domingo will be with us after the break.